We're live.
Right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Debarshi, and I'm also known as Rishi. I'm going to talk to you about GNOME and some of its applications. It says GNOME content application update. I'll explain what's that supposed to mean in a little bit. So I've been around Fedora since 2007. That's when I got my Fedora account, and more recently I've shifted towards GNOME a little bit, and right now I'm working for the Red Hat desktop team. So basically we are going to talk about these 5 applications. Some of them are a little old. You might already be familiar with them, like Nautilus and Totem. These days we try to call them files and videos, and then there's documents, photos, and music. As you can see, they are all generically named, which we will talk about later. So when we say content applications, this is basically what we are talking about, like these 5 applications taken together, and the ideas behind some of the designs and changes that have happened in these applications over the past few GNOME 3 releases. Like some of those changes have been a bit controversial, and I guess most people didn't really know the ideas and where we were coming from. So I hope to shed some light on some of them. So yeah, we'll talk about some of the more abstract concepts and design ideas. So what we are doing right now and where we want to go after this. So after the GNOME 3 release, we have spent some time polishing the basic desktop and GNOME shell and control center and stuff like that. So right now we are at the point where we want to take a look at how people use and access their content, basically their files, their pictures, their videos, and things like that. So this wiki page actually has a bit of research into this area. It's called Find, Organize, and View. So I don't really expect you to go there and start reading it, and it's also not really necessary to do it. But it's there. It fits some academic research on this area and stuff like that. But it's not really necessary to understand that for today's talk. So what we're talking about is accessing and using your content, like pictures, videos, files, and things like that. So these applications that we are going to talk about, they are not necessarily editors like GIMP or I don't know, like LibreOffice. I mean, you can obviously use those, but these are not those. These are also not just viewers. I guess most people are used to Evans and Eye of GNOME and Shotwell. So these are also not just purely a viewer in that sense. I'll explain why I'm talking about these things right now. I just wanted to get these out of the way. So these are not editors, and these are not also simple viewers, even though you can and you are supposed to see previews and things like that. And we also want to cover stuff that is both local and remotely stored. We are not really interested in being limited to the local hard disk. So we do want to cover your data in the cloud and other online and remote sources. So this is what really lies at the center of this whole thing. The idea of content versus files. So we are talking about Nautilus, Totem, and 3 more new applications which are documents, photos, and music. So the basic idea is that we should have an alternative to the file manager to use our content. So the file manager has always been the traditional way in which we open a file, save a file, I don't know, find a file, and things like that. So if you go to any application and go to the open dialog, the GTK file chooser comes up and you see the directories and the files, and you can have bookmarks and things like that, but they are basically a hierarchical file system. And Nautilus has been the application which is the file manager which lets you do that as well. And these days Nautilus and the GTK file chooser, they are very similar, so it's there. But there is also this idea that there should be an alternate to this, like most people are used to using phones and tablets these days, and they don't really let you touch the file system directly in most cases. So people are used to having like having their videos and their photos just show up in a gallery or a videos kind of application without having to bother about the files. So the one thing that is very important to remember is that we are talking about the file manager and a bunch of alternatives to the file manager, and the target audience for these two are really different. Like there's always going to be people who want to directly control their files, name their directories, and be particular about that. And there's always going to be people who don't really care much about the names of their pictures. Like they're not really bothered if it's called IMG whatever and things, and so on and so forth. So yeah, and neither of these are going away. It's not like the file manager is going away or something, and they should work well together. Like they should. I mean, it should not be so that if you use a file manager, you cannot use something else, and so on and so forth. So let's look at some of the design ideas behind these applications. So they are generically named, like we changed the code names that we used. Like the Nautilus is usually referred to as files in the UI. Totem is usually referred to as videos in the UI. This has generally been a trend in the new GNOME 3 series, like you'll see it across the board in many places. And they're also tailored to the content, like even though they do share some of the same design principles, I mean, sometimes people ask why not have the same application and like keep switching them with some mode or something, but they are tailored to the content. So we have a different application for videos and different one for music, because even though they might look and have the same ideas driving them, there are like subtle differences in how you play music, I mean audio and video, so they're meant to be tailored to the content. And the UI generally has some fundamental elements which are common. So generally we try to focus on the view, like the main thing that the application is supposed to do. So if you have an application which deals with documents, we try to focus the user's attention on the documents and reduce the UI chrome a little bit. I will show you what I'm talking about. And there's usually a toolbar and a search functionality somewhere. So that's more or less what we try to limit ourselves to in the first view of the application. And we try to not use a sidebar, which has been a traditional element in most applications in the past. The idea being that when you have different form factors, when you have laptops with an accelerometer which you can turn around, like some of the new laptops have, or a tablet maybe, the sidebar in portrait mode can eat up a lot of space in a turned around laptop. So we try to stay away from it if we can. So this is the new Nautilus, which underwent some UI changes a couple of years ago, which was a bit controversial. So you see, yeah, so there's the toolbar and basically the view, and then there's the search. And the thing about search in like most GNOME 3 UIs is that you should be able to just start typing and search. Like it's like a live search when you just start typing. Like in the shell, you hit super keys and then just start typing. And yeah, as I said, like we try to limit ourselves to simple patterns and minimal chrome and focus on the content. The reason being that we do want to work across multiple input devices and form factors, like the keyboard and the mouse still remains our main focus because essentially GNOME 3 is meant for laptops. But we do also want to work with newer laptops that have a touchscreen, with a touchscreen input, or some of the newer tablets might also be interesting for us. So there are things we try not to do, like we try not to have right click as the main way of doing something. I mean, right click still works, but there's always an alternative to that which is highlighted in the UI. So because right clicking on touch can be hard, and we try to have buttons which are easier to tap instead of deeply nested menus, and which is also another thing which can be problematic if you have a touch-based input device and things like that. And we want to focus on the content, like it should be obvious what this application is supposed to do and what you are able to do with it. And we try to expose more controls as the context of the application changes. So this is like the Photos application, so it's very obvious what it does. It deals with photos, right? Same while previewing a document. I mean, there is very minimal Chrome out there. However, actions are possible, like there is a whole lot of them underneath. So when you right click on a picture, you move into this new mode where you can like create albums and look at the properties and print it and mark them as favorites. You can also search with the search button, or you can just start typing. Same with the document viewer, like the moment you move the mouse or you tap on it, you can mark it as you can mark a page as a bookmark. You can bookmark a page. There's this other button to view the contents, like some documents contents view, like the content of the document with chapters and other metadata. So aggregation is another thing we want to do. What we mean by aggregation is that we try not to focus too much on the source of the content. So we try not to focus too much on whether the content, whether your document came from Google Drive or it's on your hard drive. Because you really need not bother about that too much. I mean, it is there in the UI. When you want to search, particularly within your Facebook photos or your, Blip TV videos or whatever, you can do that. But what you usually get in the first view is an aggregated view of all your content across all your cloud accounts and or your DLNA devices and stuff like that, sorted by recency, so you get your most recently used stuff first, so that hopefully they are the most useful. We could do more clever things in the future, but yeah, so that's the idea behind aggregation, to work across multiple sources of content. And yes, as I mentioned before, like content versus files, so search versus directory traversal. So this is so in a world where you deal with files and directories, you basically work by going through directories and finding what you want. That's still there, obviously, but search is one thing we have been trying to highlight more and more. So one of the more controversial changes in Nautilus was that we changed how search works. So nowadays you just start typing wherever you are and start searching within the subdirectory you are and within subdirectories within that subdirectory and so on. This is kind of similar to how things work in the shell. You hit super and you start typing and it searches within your applications and your content and your address book and so on. Search is kind of present everywhere, right? People are really used to searching for things. So that's one thing we have been trying to focus on. So this is a search in Nautilus. You start typing and it starts filtering your view as you keep going on. Same for videos, like you can search among your, these are videos from Blip TV basically. Yeah. This is another thing which we have been trying out in GNOME 3. This has been present in Boxes for a while. Boxes is the virtual machine application which has been around for a while now and has become quite stable these days. So the idea behind reversible delete is that we try not to highlight the trash. So traditionally there has been a trash and you delete stuff, goes to trash, and you go to the trash if you deleted something by mistake and restore, or otherwise you just clean out the trash when you the disk starts getting full. Now the idea behind this is that it's not very usual for somebody to, it's very rarely that somebody deletes something and then realizes they deleted the wrong thing after a week. It's usually if you delete something by mistake, you realize it within the next few seconds, like because it's gone from your view. So what we try to do is, like, when you delete something, it's gone from your view, but it's still there in the background, and we give you a way to undo this deletion. And if you don't undo within a timeout, like it's usually 10 seconds for the moment, if you don't undo within that timeout, then it's gone. So that's the idea behind reversible delete.
I think a lot of applications just didn't have that too, right? They didn't have any kind of go back after you deleted it. You deleted a virtual machine in, say, Workmanager, it's gone, right?
Yeah, right.
Never again.
Right. So this is like how it looks like. You delete something, it's gone. Now you get a in-application notification, and you can either undo or just let it be deleted. And as Andreas pointed out, the thing is that, I mean, sometimes when you delete and you want to get it back, it can be hard for the person to realize that it went to the trash, because it can be hard for a new user to make that connection that is gone and it will go back and get it back. But here it's more direct, like you deleted it, it's gone, but now you have a way right in your face to get it back if you made a mistake. Right. So the design also tries to take care of different form factors, different input devices, and as we mentioned in the before, we try to avoid sidebars, no deeply nested menus, and we try to make sure that we don't rely on secondary clicks like right clicks and things like that. Even though they work, they are not the primary way the UI expects the user to interact. So with that out of the way, let's look at where we stand now. So we have a bunch of online sources for content these days. We do all these things, Blip TV, we do DLNA, Facebook, Flickr, Google Drive. OneDrive is Microsoft's Google Drive thing. We do OwnCloud Pocket, and there's a whole list of sources for videos. The Guardian, the movie database, is for metadata for videos, if I remember correctly, and then there is also the tvdb.com, it's also for metadata for videos. There's also Rai TV, Blip TV, and a few more. So this is videos showing all the different online sources for videos that it has. So you see the Guardian videos, you see stuff from DLNA, like this Andreas Nilsson's media.
Where did you find that?
You were using your computer when I was screenshotting. So that's that's basically DLNA, and you have Blip TV, Rai TV, and a few more. Most of these applications can do search. Like they all have this live type as you search thing. So this is photos doing search now. We saw Nautilus and videos before. Yeah, high DPI support kind of works pretty well, I would say, in all these applications. This was a focus for the last 2 releases. We got these donated high DPI laptops from Intel and a guy from Wikimedia Foundation, so that works pretty well. This is about the implementation mostly. So for talking to these different online providers, we use various libraries and modules. Like Grillo is something we use very frequently. Like for videos and music is heavily dependent on Grillo. And these days you can add new Grillo sources with Lua, like a little bit of Lua code, and you can parse stuff coming from the online server. And it's very easy to add your own favorite source like that. So we use Grillo, we use GBFS, like for we have the WebDAV backend in GBFS, which is useful for OwnCloud, and we have a whole lot of other libraries like libgdata is for the Google APIs. Then there is GFB Graph for the Facebook Graph API, and then there is libzappogit, which is basically the Microsoft Connect implementation. And we use GNOME Online Accounts, which has also been around for a while. This is basically the single sign-on service for GNOME. So you add your account here, and the applications pick up the information from here, from your settings, online accounts panel, and does things. We also use Tracker for our local data. So the Nautilus search that you saw these days uses Tracker heavily, and also the other content applications, they use Tracker, because with Tracker you can say things like give me all my pictures, give me all my videos, instead of going to the file system. Tracker has had its problems in the past, and it still has some issues, but it does work. It does kind of serve our needs very well, so that's what we are using right now. This is kind of new. DLane, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a project from Intel mainly for DLNA. So we have had Rigel in GNOME for a while. Rigel is basically something that turns your computer into a server, a DLNA server, or a DLNA renderer, like a TV or a speaker or a NAS or something. And DLane is supposed to be the client-side counterpart of it. Like if you want to interact with a server or a renderer, or I think that's all they have in the DLane. Whatever. If you want to interact with a server or a renderer, this is basically your client-side stack, and it makes it very easy for applications to like discover new servers on your network and talk to them, and it kind of abstracts all the craziness in the UPnP part of the protocol and so on. So we have started using this. So let's look at a few things that we want to do in the near future, near to midterm future. Now, these 5 applications, they've been here for a while, but like Nautilus is very old. It's I expect that it's familiar to most people. Totem 2, it's been around for a while as a media player, mainly. Although the new UI that you saw in the screenshots, it just arrived 6 months ago, so it just got a new UI refresh to become videos. But 3 of the newer applications like documents, photos, and music, they have been, music is the most recent one among those 3, but the other 2 have been there for a while, but they are still not as useful as they could be. Reason being that this whole thing is part of a bigger picture, like the whole content application and finding and reviewing content story. It's part of a bigger picture, and there are bigger pieces of the puzzle missing. So some of the things that we need for it to be complete is number 1, there is a sharing framework that we need. So one thing you might have noticed is that none of these applications, they do uploads. Like you can browse your stuff, you can search them, view them, but you cannot really like push stuff to a remote server. So the idea is that there would be a sharing framework. It also ties in heavily with the idea of application sandboxing that we have been talking about. So the idea is that you would have share points on your system, like there would be services on your system which would advertise themselves as share points. So you could have a service which says, I know how to upload to Facebook, or something which says, I know how to share something on Google Plus, and so on. And you can even write a shell script or a small program of your own which uses this SharePoint to upload your pictures to Flickr, or it could even be a pastebin SharePoint or something, which allows you to put text on a pastebin. And the reason it's a framework is because it should be possible for you to go to your control center, the settings, and see what are the different shares that are going on at the moment. And you should be able to like abort a share from the control center, and you should be able to say that nothing should be able to upload to Flickr at the moment. Like if you're in a public place, you don't want to trust the network for some reason. So unless we have that, we don't want to implement uploads. I mean, there's nothing hard in implementing uploads, like it's pretty simple, but like we want to do it in a way which ties in with the whole system. So this is a mock-up, not a screenshot. So this is how it's supposed to look like. Like whenever you try to upload, you get a dialog saying what kind of SharePoints you have, and then you can choose one, and then later on you can control them from the settings dialog. You should be able to see what's going on right now, and you should be able to say no to something. You should be able to say, you should be able to say no to one of these in a way that an application cannot override. So that's basically where application sandboxing comes in, where an application won't have direct access to the network, where it will always go to the sandbox.
These are targets or sources or both?
There are both actually. It's a mock-up, so these are the targets, and these are the programs which can use these targets. So there is also this thing called Next, which has been going around for a while. So right now the way it works is that you go to your file manager and you click on something, it opens in Events, or I have GNOME, or depending on what MIME tag it is, it opens in something, and then you have a preview and you go on. Now, the idea is that previews would be embedded within the file manager, and the preview that you see in the file manager would be kind of similar to the preview that you see in the other applications, like the previews that you see in documents or in music or in videos. We already have in-app previews in Nautilus at the moment, but they are kind of a hidden feature. You have to press spacebar instead of enter, and it doesn't really work too well, which is why it's a hidden feature. It's not really something we can advertise. So that's one thing that's very important. And the other thing is content selection. So the idea is that right now when you go to the open dialog, you get a GTK file chooser and you choose based on your files and directories. What we basically want to do is offer an alternative even there. Like it should be possible for someone to avoid going through the hierarchical file system while opening something from their application. So we should have content selection dialog, which kind of looks like these content applications, where the content is there and the file system is kind of hidden. So that's another big thing which needs to fall in place. We're also working on a better support for ebooks. It already kind of works. It's a Google Summer of Project this year. We would also like to have some simple editing, like for example, if you want to open a ODF file in documents, you probably also want to edit it a little bit. I mean, right now we show it as a PDF, which kind of doesn't really work too well. So we want to do that, like simple editing with your pictures as well, like red eye removal and a little bit of cropping and adjustment. So one big thing that has happened in the recent past is LibreOffice Kit. So now it's possible to actually have a widget, like a GTK widget, which you can embed in your application to render ODF or whatever LibreOffice can render. It cannot do edits at the moment, but there are plans to do simple editing. The reason being that LibreOffice Kit, it came out of their attempts to have LibreOffice running on Android, or I think Android was what I heard. Yes, and so they wanted a very lightweight viewing thing, which is not the full-blown Office suite. So the way it works is that it renders to tiled PNGs, and you basically show the PNGs at the moment. And it's also faster than using the alternatives that we have right now. And in future, there are plans to have simple editing, like not the full-blown complicated Office suite, but simple editing of Word files, spreadsheets, and stuff like that, which is kind of enough for what we need. Because usually people get frustrated when they open an ODF in documents and then they're like, I wanted to change this line, and now I have this another click that I need to do to open it in LibreOffice, and so it should cover that use case pretty well. Removable devices. So that's another thing that's missing. Like you should be able to the workflow where you plug in your camera and you want to upload your stuff to Flickr and maybe do a few edits in the middle. Basically, it's about that workflow. That's something we want to do. I mean, it's kind of half done at the moment as a summer code project, but I think it should land now. It's been in limbo for a few years. Browser integration. So usually what happens is when you click on a random PDF on the internet or a random video file or something, it gets downloaded and in your downloads folder, and then unless you go through your file system, you cannot really save it. Like you cannot really say that I want to view it later as well. You cannot really say whether this was a one-off thing that I was interested in, or whether I really want to keep it around for later use. So when we integrate with the browser, when you download a PDF, it should be possible for you to say like, okay, import this into my collection of documents, and it should do the right thing without bothering you about where you want to save it, what name you want to save it as, and so on. Yeah, better offline behavior. Basically, we should improve our caching a little bit more. I mean, we already cache things, but there are holes which are noticeable if you have a very flaky Wi-Fi connection and things like that. Because mainly because we don't try to differentiate between the sources that much, because the primary view in these applications is like an aggregation of all your stuff from all over the place. So if you have a flaky network connection, it can break in subtle ways in many places. And obviously more polish, and that's always there. Gestures, these are about multi-touch gestures on touchscreens. We now have good support for gestures in GTK this development cycle, so we want to have things like zooming in with your fingers and swiping to walk through a collection and things like that. On devices with a touchscreen like a Chromebook Pixel, which is a touchscreen laptop, or I guess the Lenovo Yoga, or there are more coming out these days. Yeah, so that's one thing would be nice to add. Yeah, so that's it. I think we still have a few minutes.
Yep, you got 8 minutes.
Yeah, so any questions?
I'm also the one working on the GNOME Shell cluster.
Yeah.
So where's actually like the upstream where submit issues and stuff? Like the sort of upstream for this extension like GNOME Shell cluster.
There, you mean an upstream for?
I mean for filing bugs. It's Bugzilla or?
Right. So we have extensions of GNOME.org, but they don't have a Bugzilla component. But there is also a Git repository, like these extensions which we use in classic mode and a few more. They are there in Bugzilla. So what you can do is you can go to GNOME Shell. So you go to the GNOME Shell product and find the extensions component in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a component GNOME shell extension.
One of the worst things for me is like when I was using classic mode, it's like the applications menu, and then you are browsing all of those items, but suddenly, you know, there are places where the mouse is not selecting anything. This is like these blind spots and on some item, but it's not selected, and it feels like really, it feels like buggy stuff, you know.
Yeah. That one you can file in the Bugzilla, because if it's part of the classic mode, you should be able to file in Bugzilla. But I think there is a bug for the application menu, because earlier the GNOME 2 panel was using GTK, right? And GTK menus have had a lot of tweaks over the years to cover these cases where if you're mousing from one sub-menu to another, and then there's a little bit of buffer so that when your mouse is jumping, there's a whole lot of tweaks and heuristics in GTK menu, but this is obviously not using GTK, so all those heuristics are not in place. So yeah, there's a bug about that. But
so I'm currently in the process of moving away from services such as Dropbox since well, Condoleezza Rice joined Dropbox like more, right? But so I'm curious about the status of the OwnCloud integration with regards to these applications. I know there's like the WebDAV and all this, right? But what's up with the others?
yeah, currently documents and files, they work with OwnCloud, but it should be easy to make it work with for pictures, photos and videos, because it's mostly WebDAV. So, and these days OwnCloud also has a email client, like a webmail client, which you can use with your own email setup or even with Gmail. So we should be able to do that too. And I think they are also doing collaborative editing of some kind nowadays.
Yes.
Yes.
And I am using actually OwnCloud for HALDAP and TARGAP, and they work.
Yeah, those also work. Evolution.
They work perfectly well. And there is, actually it's not in Fedora, I don't know why exactly. There is that Dropbox-like client that you have one folder and it is synchronized.
Yeah, for OwnCloud, right?
And it's not, I don't know why it is not in the, or somehow is some kind of.
And that's the native syncing client, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, I have that installed and I use that. Use the integration for OwnCloud with GNOME for everything but the files, and Aces for the files for the offline support. But what's already in there is really nice.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether this documents open on cloud. I don't know.
Depends on what version.
No, they don't. Well, I have probably the old one. This is RL also.
Maybe it's an older one. Yeah, the support for documents OwnCloud documents in GNOME documents was relatively recent. It happened after the other integration point.
Maybe do you plan something like switching desktops by, I don't know, 4-finger swipe?
Yeah. There's, I think right now you can actually go between workspaces using 4-finger swipe. Well, it's in master, so it should be in Fedora 1.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because the gestures thing is very recent, like it's happening.
Maybe something like, it's on Mac, when you can like move your 3 fingers and it makes click and moves the cursor. Would that be a possibility like that? Because it's very nice, then you can move stuff and don't have to click nothing, just,
Yeah.
very comfortable.
Yeah. I'm sure it will happen eventually. We have a wiki page about all the gestures that we want to support. It's on the GNOME wiki, gnome.org design OS gestures, or just search for gestures. But it's really new, so it will happen eventually.
Okay, thank you.
Some of the important applications have a light theme like files, some have a dark theme like
yes,
video.
The idea is that for certain kind of content like pictures and videos, like visual stuff mostly, having a dark environment helps in reducing light pollution basically. Like your colors really stand out if it's in a darkish background and your videos. But it's not so important for like just files and music. That's the idea.
I'm the last maintainer, probably the last user of GNOME, which was the GNOME 2 cataloging photos stuff. And one of the beautiful things about it is that it doesn't save any data outside of the pictures. All data are in EXIF or XMP.
Right.
So there are no databases lying around. And it's dying because I don't know enough of GNOME 3 to be able to copy it from GNOME 2 to GNOME 3. And so I wonder, the new photos, are they meant to be kind of replacement of Shotwell, or what's the relation between Shotwell and photos?
So the thing is like, I mean, this is a good question. It keeps coming up. Should someday write a blog about it. So the thing is that it's not supposed to be a replacement for Shotwell because I mean, Shotwell is still has a different user interface or experience, what you call it. Like in Shotwell, you have to click your file, import it, and so it's not really, doesn't really fit into the alternative to file manager idea.
What between IO-GNOME and Shotwell the photos fit?
You could say that it's a replacement for IO-GNOME.
Okay.
And we do use some of their code. I mean, there was an interesting.
Because I don't know why anybody who has the first project, anybody does is writing the photo organizing stuff, and they never do it very well, but there's hundreds of them.
Yeah, it's so simple to put together, right? If you have a project, it's like, well,
showing
some pictures, yeah.
So there was some interest in modifying Shotwell. Yeah, sorry, modifying IO-GNOME. But the person doing IO-GNOME, like one of the maintainers was busy, and the other person was also working on Epiphany. So they really didn't have time to do it. And the problem with changing well-established application is that you immediately get a lot of backlash. Like in the case of Nautilus, right? I mean, you change something and then you break somebody's workflow, and if the maintainers are not really interested to deal with this, it's better to, like, you know, and I mean, we do use their code, and we are not really in the business of just another photo viewer or something. It really needs to tie in with the core of GNOME, because if we want to do content selection without dealing with files, then this really needs to tie in with the core of GNOME in various places. So, I mean, yeah, so it's not just a viewer in that sense.
So, for example, can I change or work with tags in photos?
You can create albums right now. Tags we don't do because I mean, there is no reason not to do it. There is just no UI design, and we just figured that there are bigger pieces of the puzzle to fill in. Like, for example, when we were implementing Flickr, there was this question like, how are tags different from albums? Like, we kind of figured that tags are like somewhat cryptic things which are used for making it easy to search, while albums are more like my summer vacation, and where tags can be like sunset, portrait, and things like that.
You can have like one photo in different albums.
Yeah, yeah.
Then you can kind of use it as tags.
As tags,
if you don't want to, I guess.
Yeah, but there's no fundamental reason not to have tags.
Do you with GNOME photos, do you plan to covered the typical user's workflow, like you pull SD card in your computer, you download the pictures, you somehow organize them, and then you upload them to...
Yes.
Like,
yes, so for that, the main thing that's missing right now is support for removable devices. Like you plug in a SD card or a camera or a USB stick and then the whole workflow from there. But this was blocking for a couple of years, should be sorted out now, so it should be possible. I mean, it should be possible in documents very soon, and then maybe in other applications slowly after that.
So I will learn GNOME 3 and Polish approach. Okay, I understand.
Okay. Any more questions?
maybe something I was thinking about when I set up new computer, I want like another one, maybe I have laptop and I have desktop as well, and I want to just transfer all my settings there. So would there be any chance to just back up all the settings like in one file and then install it from there?
Yeah, this people keep asking about this. I don't know, like.
And also, when we have the content versus files, I was always afraid when I use the content thing, I have no control about backups and stuff.
Yes.
It would like do snapshots of the whole system with the content, not with all files, but with the content things.
Yes, well, you could still back up your pictures folder and your music folder.
Yeah, of course, but if I don't want to, I don't care about the files which
right.
are not the content, if you understand.
Right, right, yeah, you mean, I see what you mean. No, the backup tool doesn't really work like this at the moment, but yeah, it should probably. Yeah, it should
be a very nice feature.
Yeah, yeah, like that also ties into content selection, like, so the backup tool should let you select content to backup, right?
Yeah.
So that was the thing about content selection. So these applications, they need to be able to export the content that they know about in a way that other applications can use. So it kind of ties into a little bit to application sandboxing and to that's what I meant by content selection. So that other applications can like reuse the views provided by these.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should eventually do it, like that's the plan. Yeah. Okay, so I'm told that my time's running out, so.
So thank you.